Up to today, we've kind of talked about cells like they were by themselves. Okay? We talked about animal cell, how it's different from a plant cell. We talked about how a prokaryote is different, okay, than a eukaryote. All right, but cells don't exist by themselves. They interact with each other. Sometimes they touch each other, sometimes they're separate from each other, but somehow they communicate with each other. Okay, so that's really what chapter 4 is about. How do cells know what's going on? They can't think. They don't have brains and consciousness, but somehow your cells can interact with the environment chemically. Okay? So, let's start off by talking about that surface, which we've kind of ignored. We've talked about everything inside a cell, but we really didn't talk about the outside too much. And this is cell membrane. Now, sometimes it's referred to as a plasma membrane because, well, yeah, you got the cytoplasm inside, and so we're kind of sticking with that plasma idea. But it has nothing to do with true plasma, which is energized gas. All right, so it's kind of a misleading phrase, but sometimes you'll hear me refer to one or the other. All right, well, let's start with job. See if you can figure out what the three main jobs are. What does the cell membrane do for us?
Keeps out bad.
All right, so one, it's a barrier. Yeah, it keeps out stuff. Keeps out bad stuff, like viruses and bacteria, for the most part.
How do you spell barrier?
B-A-R-R-I-E-R. What else does it do for us? Or for a cell? Why is it there? It does. Yeah, it holds it together. Well, I mean, imagine a cell without a cell membrane.
It would be some.
Well, you'd
Just
be
be a,
so membraneless.
you know, not even a blob. A blob has shape. I mean, if you,
It wouldn't be there.
yeah, it wouldn't be there. All right, so you'd have a nucleus and stuff just floating around. No. All right, so it's going to hold it together. It's protective. There's kind of one more thing.
Protective.
It regulates what goes in and out. Okay, so, man, you guys are, you didn't miss a beat. You didn't even have break. We're just jumping right back into it. Boom, boom, boom. So, holds the cell together. So we could call that shape. Not all cells have the same shape. It separates the inside versus the outside, so that's protective. It's kind of like a fence or the walls of the house. It gives it a defined boundary. And if you're going to put a star, put a star there. Because that is what we're going to focus the most on. What does it mean to regulate? If I'm regulating something, I'm controlling, I'm choosing, I'm deciding what can go through and what can't. And in biology, we give this a special phrase. Josh, did you figure out how to say it?
No, I did not know.
Ah, you were trying
the
though.
last word. I tried to.
Selectively
Um,
permeable. Okay. Now, translate that basically. The cell membrane somehow, and it's really kind of hard to picture, but somehow the membrane decides what can get in. Permeable, permeate, can go through. Select what can go through. That's bizarre. How can something that can't think, there's nothing conscious about it,
Because it's gotta have that.
somehow decides what's important and what's not important? Okay. There's a big clue.
Yeah. I remember that off the
How
video.
does that work?
I remember that off the video.
Lock and a key.
A key unlocks a lock.
It could.
Well,
Does it have to?
no, if the key doesn't fit, it's not
We have a
wrong.
firm grasp.
Okay, so here's my keychain.
That's all the keys.
Okay, so on this keychain I have 1, 2, I've never actually counted these. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Is this the first time you've ever counted?
12. Yeah, that's.
Did you count the little ones?
Yeah, that's the first time I've actually counted all 12 keys. Okay, now, most of these keys have nothing to do with school. This one does, this one does. Okay, maybe I lied. This one and this one
What is it, so you can get in?
and this one.
Most of them.
5 out of 12.
All right, fine. 5 out of 12 have to do with school. Oh,
What's
the
that
fob.
for?
Who comes up with that word anyway?
It's not-
This is a special fob.
The fob.
What does that mean?
It's got a-
Is that short for something?
Favorite? No.
Oh no, see that's
Is
the
this
sort of
over a
stuff I
door?
think about. Yeah, this is the stuff that opens up the doors now because.
No, my foot will
For
open
opening
lock.
barriers.
Well, the problem is because this is an old school, there are
This
many
fob
keys
door.
floating around that we don't know who has them anymore.
Is it fob?
So there have been a lot of coaches who got keys and then stopped coaching but never returned the keys. And so there's a lot of people that have access to the school that maybe shouldn't.
Oh, snap.
Okay, not that they would do anything, but it's hard to
You never
control.
know.
I have
Okay,
no.
so that's why we're going to these things. All right, so this key opens up my door and my door alone.
You missed
Oh,
Oh, I missed it.
You missed
This
it.
key opens up every other door but the science ones.
What?
There's only one key that opens all the doors.
This opens up every room that I'm aware of.
But
So why do you have a
which
key
That's
that
the
opens
master.
every room, and then you have a key that
Well,
opens
because
every
I got
room but
these
your
sequentially.
What if you get robbed
This,
before
when I
school,
first
they
got
take your
hired on
keys?
NEG, this is the only key I got to my room.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at some point I have to get into the computer lab. I have to get into Mr. Swire's room. Maybe he's not.
So then you
here.
got every.
So I had to get this key,
everyone
and then
bunches.
eventually I've been here teaching long enough, I guess, and somehow knew the right people, so I got the other key, the master key. But this still doesn't allow you into the school. It just allows you
It's
into
just that
every
one
event.
fob.
The
does.
fob.
You
Gets
see that
you
on
in.
like the TV show or something.
And then, let's see, what other key do we have? This key opens up the desk drawer, and this key opens up the paper towel dispenser.
Oh wow.
Ooh.
Just in
So if
case.
it gets jammed and you get mad.
Exactly. I had to
Oh
ask.
my gosh.
Not every teacher gets one of those.
I learned how to hit it and it would open. The fob thing is something you'd see on a bad television show.
It reminds me of Leafish.
I'm skeptical.
Okay.
Couldn't they never something cooler like?
So, how does this have anything to do with cells? It does, but it's a little bit of a reach. Okay.
Well, now that.
Just go with it. See, you miss just critical moments. Okay, so talk about how does the cell membrane do this? It has to do with how it's made.
So it's dinosaur fat.
Okay. Well, let's look at this. First of all, there are clues.
That was sweet.
Translate this,
So there's layers
my
of
biology
fat.
scholars. Phospholipid bilayer. What are some clues in that phrase?
Lipid.
Lipid.
Ooh.
Layer.
What does that tell us?
Fat.
Fat.
Some sort of
And
fat.
bilayers, 2 layers.
Ah, so we got 2
And
layers
then
of
I thought
something.
the positive
Wrong
things like
then.
that.
What's the phospho?
Here's the way to be an overachiever.
Dinosaurs.
Phosphorus.
Ooh, phosphorus. Okay, element, chemical element. Okay, so there are 3 clues there that tell us something about this. So let's look at a phospholipid.
Does it look like a dinosaur?
It looks like that.
Looks like a jellyfish without its other fingers.
Ah, that's not too bad. Somebody in the other class said a balloon with 2 strings.
Nope.
One
Someone
string.
said a weird Martian.
One straight, one curved.
One is straight and one is
Well, semi-straight. Need a roller.
one is kinked and one is straight.
Did you
Wait,
need to
is
do
that
that, or is
all
that
yes?
yes?
Does that bring any
One's
clues?
curved and one's not.
Okay, hang on.
Is it like the
Not me,
like the
we're
kind
with
of
Okay. So here we go. This whole thing is called the phospholipid, this whole molecule. But it has two parts that we should be aware of. The first part is, quote unquote, the head,
Of course.
and it is polar, which tells us.
Don't like
Oh,
water.
yeah.
It does or it doesn't?
Don't like water.
It does.
It does? It
does.
Yes, because of polar bear.
Because water's polar.
Yeah.
Got it, Anna. Okay. All right. The other part, the tails, are non-polar.
Heads, tails.
All right. Now, why is that weird?
Well,
Because
there's
the
no
top
reason.
is polar and it's real
Because they're
like water.
connected.
Yeah, they're connected, and do they want to be?
Probably not.
Okay, so polar and non-polar. If you haven't gotten anything else out of the year, you should have gotten that those things hate each other.
That's like being connected to
Okay.
someone I don't like.
So you've got something. It'd be like the top part of your body not wanting to be attached to the bottom.
You like
Well, that would suck.
Kanye
And
Well, that's
all
what
the
happens when you're being
time,
stretched.
all the time, you would want those two parts to separate. Well, they can't
That'd be like you and your worst enemy.
because you're exactly right.
It'd be like me and Kirsten.
This junction.
Yeah.
Thank you. This junction is where the phosphorus is. That's what's holding
connects
these
them
two
together.
pieces together that don't want to be close. Okay, they're forced.
Kind of like a magnet.
They're handcuffed together. Two enemies handcuffed together. Okay? Now, if you notice one of these was straight, that's because it's saturated.
The other one's
That's right,
unsaturated.
Rolls.
And the other is unsaturated. Okay? All right. Yeah, Alice.
It's like breaking your leg.
Ah, well, it's still attached.
Saturation.
Yeah,
It's called
gotcha.
That's you and
Okay, problems on a phospholipid. All right, well,
Actually pretty easy.
2 layers. So first of all, we need 1 layer. So draw, if you could.
Caterpillar?
Let's get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do 7. 1 squiggle and 1 straight, if you can do it that complicated. Mine's not as squiggly as it should be.
I can't see, so.
Alright.
Oh, those are cute. Just kidding.
Why do you always call them cute?
Because they are cute.
They look like
'Cause
Martians.
she's Brianna.
Okay,
Or like sick people that's got shut in a door.
sketch it. You need to sketch it because you're not going to remember it over the weekend.
I have a
Go.
Okay. Now that's the way 1 layer would look.
That's the way.
What if I had,
2.
would they do this?
No.
Why not?
Because they're
Because they don't like each other, so they'd be flipped.
Right. And there's nothing that would hold those two together.
Because there's no phosphorus between the two pieces.
Okay.
You gotta draw that.
Yeah.
Yes, Josh.
That looks disgusting.
Same thing, just flipped.
That's weird.
Now,
Saturated with untracked.
that works pretty well, doesn't
Yeah.
it? So now we've got the non-polar facing their friends. Non-polar and non-polar, that's fine. And the polars are facing out and in where there's the most water. Inside the cell's mostly water. Outside the cell's mostly water. That's a perfect arrangement.
I keep thinking that this is the last class of the day, and it's not.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
So, phospholipid bilayer. That's what most of your cell membrane looks like. Now, if you look at this carefully, I see a polar layer and a polar layer
And then non-polar.
and a much thicker non-polar layer in the middle.
Okay.
Oh man.
Now, if you think back to that electron micrograph picture, do you remember what it looked like?
Oh, that's what.
So the one in the middle is the
Find the click.
non-polar. even though it
So
looks like
this is our polar heads on the inside. Here's our polar heads on the outside. Here's our non-polar tails in the middle.
even though it looks like water in it.
Even though it looks like water, which is kind of
So
confusing.
it's opposite.
Okay, but you still have that 3 zone.
Opposites attract.
Okay. Now, this presents an interesting problem.
Sliding down on my tree.
If I'm something trying to get into the cell, let's say a molecule of glucose, which is polar, where's the dilemma?
That's fit between them.
I'm trying to get to the other side, and I'm polar.
We don't know how that's gonna work. It gets through the
Date or
polar side,
something.
but it won't get through.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Josh. We get to about here,
And it stops.
and then we slam into our enemies.
It's gonna back down.
And I can't just punch my way through.
That's why you gotta
Okay.
change the fructose
Huh.
and take out the water.
There's something else that has to be in place. But what if I'm something non-polar? Can I go right through?
Nope,
Why not?
because you're gonna stop right there at the edge.
It does look like that, but let me show you something. You can't think of this as something standing still.
Wait, what is that?
Oh.
Okay, ignore this and ignore this. We haven't talked about this yet. So here's our phospholipids by layer. Watch what they're going to do.
Whoa.
Wow!
Oh my gosh. They look
It's like a big
really
party.
round.
There's a big party going
I
on.
almost started to draw that. It's a bit impossible. No.
Is that why they're sometimes squiggly and straight?
Mm. Okay. So, this time I want you to pick one phospholipid. Ignore the big blobs. Pick one of the phospholipids and follow it. Okay, you ready? You ready?
Got it. I'm watching you. I hope you know that.
They move around. They move.
They do the same thing over.
Okay. Do they end up back where they started?
No.
No.
Not necessarily. Okay.
Everybody said yes.
All right. Some of them might, but most of them, like the one I picked, ended up being way over here. Okay. Do they go this way?
No.
Not much. They mostly go left or right. Okay, but they're not standing still. Not a single one that you picked would have stood still. Okay. If I'm something not polar, bloop, some blob of fat, okay, that's needing to get in.
You'd be waiting till they start.
Can I slip through?
Maybe.
Yeah, you could possibly.
There's probably some gaps. As these things are moving around, there's going to be gaps between these polar heads. And as long as I can slip through undetected, from here to here, well, those are my buds. Non-polar and non-polar work great. Okay, so as long as I can get to here, and then I'd have to find another gap. Maybe I can't get through here. Maybe I'll bounce around over here. Non-polar stuff can get through any time they want. It's the polar stuff. Blump. I can get to here, but I can't just slip through the cracks.
Because there's no gaps.
There's no gap. It's a solid zone. Okay, it's going through enemy territory. I'm not going to be able to just find a little spot to hide out. Okay. We need some other way. Enter our second part. Proteins. Proteins are going to be the way through. Okay, and these are kind of scattered, just kind of throughout the membrane. There's really no rhyme or reason where they are. They're just kind of scattered, kind of like chocolate chips and a cookie. Okay. We get first type, and then we'll stop for today. I think we'll be out of time. Not enough time for fun. Okay. So the first type of protein are called integral. Integral
That's weird.
is where we get the word integrated. Okay, it's part of it. It's stuck in it.
Integrated.
It's embedded.
Yeah.
It's stuck.
I missed
Okay.
that word. I hear that word a lot.
All right. And the way these work, I think of them like channels, or maybe a secret passageway, if you've ever played Clue, the board game.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I was like, yes.
Just waiting for you to move on.
Okay. It's like, you guys don't know what I'm talking about. So these are gates or passages that allow polar stuff to get into the cell. Because otherwise, you wouldn't be alive. Because polar stuff is what your cell needs most of the time. Most of your food, water, all this stuff is polar. You have to have ways for that to get into the cell. Okay. Let me show you real quick animation. I'll come back. All right, so here's one. Nothing's going to dance around on this one, but you can kind of see what happens. Normally it's not allowed through, but it can if it goes through the right thing. Now this one's a little more complicated because there has to be a key.
Okay.
Oh, that's cute.
Ah,
That is
cute.
so cute.
That's cute. Here's mine.
I guess so. Yeah.
That is so
Okay.
cute.
Oh my god.
All right, so we'll stop there.
What?
I'm not through.
So hydrogen has to go into that.
I didn't figure you'd be able to. I'll just save it up here. All right. We got one more.
No, today we have to write a
So, just a quick reminder, homework, key terms,
20 definitions.
definitions,
Okay.
chapter 4. Definitions, chapter 4.
You still don't have to do configure on our exam.
You still need to do it. It will literally take you 20 minutes.
I don't
15,
have 20
20
minutes
minutes.
to spare. I go home and sleep.
15, 20 minutes.
That's exactly why